Hello.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. What have you done last class? Should we proceed? Right. So, good morning. Last class, I think we have started with the mechanical actuation system. Okay, if I am correct. Right. This is what we have started, the mechanical actuation system. And under the mechanical actuation system, we have discussed about the types of motion, that is translation motion and rotational motion, right? And then we understood what is the meaning of those. And then about the joints and the links we have understood. Okay. Then a kinematic chain, an example with the piston and connecting rod, is an example. Then 4-bar chain mechanism we understood. Then about the what is called the toggle position. Okay. And then this ladder crank mechanism. Okay. Right. Then I think we were in the cams. Okay. Now, as we understood the last class, we shall continue now. Basically, a cam is nothing but what? Okay, which is a body which rotates and oscillates, and doing so imparts a reciprocating motion to a second body called as the follower. Okay. So there are two things which are there here: the cam profile, the way the cam profiles are going to be present. Okay, is dependent upon what is the amount of movement that you want to impart to the follower. Okay, depending upon that, you have three motions which are going to be there, which is rise, dwell, and fall. Okay, rise is how fast you can able to lift the follower. Dwell is the period of time the contact, there will no movement at all. Fall is the period of time how fast the follower will come down. Okay, so it is rise of the follower, the stagnation of the follower, and the fall, the reduction of the or the fall of the follower. Okay, right. Now here there are two things which are going to be present. One is the different types of the cams and different types of the different types of the followers. Okay, now let's understand the three different types of the cams. The first one is what is called as this, called as the eccentric cam. Okay, right. Now basically the motion which is required, the motion that is required to produce a particular motion of the follower, it depends upon what? Basically it depends upon the shape of the cam and the type of the follower that you are going to use. Okay, so when it comes to the shape of the cams, let's understand, we will go with the three different types of the cam. One is the eccentric cam, other one is the heart shaped cam, other one is going to be pear shaped cam. Okay, so these are the three different types of the cams, cam profile, or the profile of the cam that we are going to discuss. Okay, if you go with a what is called as the eccentric type, okay, you can understand how the angular rotation is going to be present. Okay, now with the with what is called as your the angular rotation. Okay, with the angular rotation, you can observe the smooth movement of what is called as the movement of the follower with reference to the rotation of the cam. So as and when the cam rotates, as and when your eccentric cam rotates, because of the radius difference. Okay, now you can understand. So this radius is smaller. When next rotation is going to come, when next this point is going to come, gradually the radius is going to increase. That means there is going to be increase in the radius up for one complete for half of the rotation of the cam, and for another half of the rotation, the amount of increased value is in the same manner it is going to be reduced. That means what? Now you can understand the radial distance, from the center of this to the tip of the follower. The center distance from this point to the tip of the follower is varying. That is the reason why you call this as what is called as the eccentric. Okay, so there is some amount of eccentricity which is going to be present. This eccentricity is going to be helpful in order to make the different type of the motions. Okay, so that is the mean. That is the radial distance from the axis of rotation of the cam. Okay, the radial distance from the axis of rotation of the cam to the point of contact. Okay, to the point of contact of the follower on the cam profile. Okay, on the cam profile gives what is called as the displacement of the follower. Okay, gives the displacement of the follower with reference to the axis of rotation. Okay, now this is what is that you are drawn now is the displacement diagram. Okay, this displacement diagram has obtained because of the varying distance or the varying radius because of the concept of eccentricity. Okay, right. Now then we have the other two different case of the cams, okay, which are called as the odd shaped cam. Okay, right. Now in this the odd shaped cam, okay, so basically it gives a follower displacement. Okay, now if you observe, now from this point to this, okay, so from this point to this, it gives a follower displacement which increases at a constant rate. Okay, now this is what is called as your the rise, which increases at a constant rate. Okay, once again, yeah, which increases at a constant rate from here to here. Okay, right, and then with the time before decreasing at the constant speed. Okay, before decreasing at the constant rate. Now this heart-shaped cam, okay, cam profiles are going to be used whenever you expect the constant rate, okay, and the uniform speed. Okay, so therefore the follower is going to have the uniform speed. Okay, you can achieve, okay, in this by using the heart-shaped cam, uniform speed of the follower can be achieved, okay, which is going to be generally used in what is called as the various different types of the motion of the pumps. Okay, so when you want the uniform speed of the pump to be achieved, then at that time you are going to use what is called as the heart-shaped the cams. Okay, right. Then the next one is going to be what is called as your the pear shape. In this case, the pear shaped cam gives a follower motion which is stationary. Now you can observe. Okay, now from here to here, okay, for half of the revolution, okay, for half of the revolution, the rise and fall is symmetrical. Okay, right. Now the rise and fall, okay, now if you observe, the rise and fall, okay, is going to be symmetrical. Okay, now the way that it is going to take symmetrically, the fall is also going to occur. Okay, right, in each of the remaining quarter. Okay, now this is going to be generally used in what is called as your the engine control mechanism, that is here in EMS. Okay, what we call it as the engine management system. Okay, in the engine management system, we are going to use this. Okay, now in this case, as I told, now this is going to be a rise portion and this is going to be your fall portion. Okay, now this portion is what we call it as what is called as the dwell portion. Okay, now in the dwell portion, basically it allows, okay, the dwell portion will hold. Okay, if the example is going to be engine management system, the dwell portion is the one which holds the valve open. Okay, which holds the valve open so that the air fuel mixture or the petrol, okay, is going to get into the cylinder. That means depending upon what time, okay, depending upon how much time that you wish the valve to open, accordingly you have to design the dwell. Okay, the dwell in this shape, sorry, in this cam profile, okay, is going to be designed so that what is the amount of the time duration which is required for you to make the charge to get into the cylinder. Okay, now that is what is called as the dwell which is going to be there. Okay, now if there is going to be the greater the radius which is going to be present here. Okay, now if you make sure that if this portion is going to be larger, okay, if this portion, the radius portion is going to be larger, okay, then you are allowing more amount of time, okay, for the dwell to occur. Okay, now these are all the three different types of the cam follower. Okay, so these are three different types of the cams, okay, which are going to be present. Okay, now one thing is with respect to the cam, the other one is with respect to what is called as the types of the cam followers. Okay, right. Now, so this is what is called as the different types of the followers which are going to be present. Okay, so totally 6 different types of followers which are going to be there. Maybe this may be asked for some 4 to 5 marks in the exam. Okay, so one is called as the point follower. Okay, so this is what is that you need to observe. Okay, So shows the example with different types of cam followers. Okay. In this case, the one which is going to be largely used out of these three, the one which is largely used is going to be the roller followers. Okay, which is going to give you the lower friction than sliding contact, but can be more expensive. Okay, now this is what is called as your the roller follower, which is going to be present. Okay, point follower.
What is the difference between point and knife follower?
Now, yeah, okay. Now, in this case of a point follower, what is going to happen? Okay, so a case of a follower which is called as a point. Okay, now if you observe the amount of the point, okay, the amount of contact, okay, which is going to be obtained in case of point follower is going to be different from the knife follower. That means now let me say. So in case of now, if you observe, okay, the case of a point follower and the knife follower. Now, in case of your engine, in the case of pumps specifically, okay, in the case of the pumps, where the constant motion is going to be required or the constant speed is going to be required. Okay, so at that moment we are going to use what is called as a point follower. Okay, and in case of the reciprocating motions which are going to be there, that is in the positive displacement pumps. Okay, in the positive displacement pumps, okay, we are going to make use of what are called as the knife edge follower. Okay, knife edge follower, okay, basically gives you a rather a smaller amount of the contact, okay, compared to what is called as the point contact. Okay, so basically which is with respect to the amount of the contact that is going to be exerted with respect to the follower and what is called the cam profile is what we are going to generally make the differences between your point follower and that of the knife follower. Okay, right. Then we have the sliding and oscillating, okay, the followers, okay, and the flat type of follower and mushroom type of followers. Okay, now here, so more generally, for the different types of the work, okay, we are generally going to use these different types of the cams rather. Okay, right. Now this is a general introduction to what is called as the cams. Now we have what is called as the gates, the second one of the kinematic chain is the first one. Under the kinematic chain, header crank mechanism, okay, and then the cam, the different types of cams and the different types of followers, okay, and then next is with respect to the gears, the next one. Okay, now here when it comes to the gears, when it comes to the gears, basically gear trains are the mechanisms which we know which are widely used for the transfer of motion. Okay, now in this case we could able to understand when you are going to generally use the gears whenever there is going to be requirement for the change in speed or the change in or a torque of a rotating device is going to be needed. That is for a shorter distance. Okay, you are going to use what are called the gear trains. Now, in this case, basically, if you observe the parallel, the gears are used for transmission of rotary motion between the parallel shafts. Okay, so this one comes under which category? What is the category of the gear under A? Under which category this is classified? The number one, number A, which is a parallel gear axis. Parallel gear axis is called as what? Call it as? Okay, the parallel gear axis is called as the spur gear. Okay. Now, in the gears they're used. Okay, gears can be used for transmission of rotary motion between the parallel shafts. When you are going with the parallel shafts, we call it as the spur gear. At the second one, the axis inclined to one another. Okay, when there is going to be a transfer of motion from one axis to which is inclined to another axis, we call it as what is called as the bevel gear. The second one is going to be a case of a bevel gear. The term bevel gear is going to be used, okay, for this condition. And now we know that whenever the two gears are going to be there, the common terminologies that you know, this is going to be what is called as your the larger one, okay, is going to be called as the spur wheel or a crown wheel, okay, and the smaller one is going to be called as what is called as the pinion. Okay, so this is what is called the pinion, and this is going to be the driver, and this is the driven. Okay, so this is the general meaning of a gear train, which is all the basic concepts of your the mechanical elements which you have done in your first semester or the second semester. Okay. Then based on the inclination, okay, if there is an inclination, we call it as what is called as a bevel gear. And in this case, these lines indicate, that you can able to understand, which are called as the teeth which are cut, the teeth which are going to be cut. Okay. Now the gears which are going to be used with parallel shafts may have a axial teeth. Okay. So here we have axial teeth wherein it runs parallel to the axis of the shaft, Okay. Now these are the example of your spur gear. Now in this case, the teeth are going to be cut at certain inclination. The teeth are cut at a certain inclination. Okay. So that is called as your helical teeth. Okay. That is the helical gears, that what we are going to call. In this case, there will be a continuous amount of the contact is going to be present. There is going to be a continuous amount of contact is going to be present right from the first point, engagement, okay, first meeting point to the exit of the teeth. Okay. So continuously the power transmission is going to occur. So that is the case of your helical teeth. Okay. Now basically helical gears are going to be more advantageous, okay, because of the gradual engagement of the two meshing the gears. Okay. And as there is a gradual engagement, there is a more better smoother drive which is going to be present, and also there will not be much amount of the friction. So hence there is going to be a prolonged life of the gear you can able to expect. Okay. Then again another one is going to be called as your the double helical teeth. Okay. Now in this case, what is going to happen? The inclination of the teeth of the axis. Okay. The inclination of the teeth to the axis of the shaft. Okay. Results in an axial force component. Okay. This can be overcome by using what is called a double helical teeth. Okay. So for the further enhancement of the smooth movement, okay, you can have what is called the double helical teeth, which is going to be present. So this is with respect to the initial case of the gears. Then this is about the gear ratios. Okay. So two meshed gears. Okay, you can understand the driver and the driven. Okay. So the gear ratio is can express in terms of ratio of angular velocity, or ratio of the number of teeth. Okay. Or the ratio with respect to the diameter, that is your the pitch circle diameter. Okay. Right. For this a simple combination, you can understand the angular velocity of the driver and angular velocity of the driven will be equal to the ZB by ZA. Okay. That will be equal to the PCD of the driver driven and the PCD of the driver. Okay. Now this is the basic equation what you will be having. Okay. Now this is a basic combination of the gears. Now you know, in order to make both the driver and driven to rotate in the same direction. Now in this case, A rotates in clockwise and B rotates in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay. So if you want both driver and driven to rotate in the same direction, then you need to incorporate an intermediate gear, okay, which you understood called as the idler gear, okay, which is a case of simple gear train. Okay. Now a series of simple gear train, a series of intermeshed gear wheels which are going to be there. Now in this case, the idler gear is going to serve the purpose of transferring the motion, so that A and C rotates in the same direction. Driver and driven rotates in the same direction. Okay. When it comes to the angular velocities, we are interested in the driven and the driver. That is nothing but angular velocity, that is omega. The gear ratio is nothing but the omega A driver and omega C, which is the driven. Okay. Now that will be equal to these two combination first. That is if you take this one, okay, so this is going to be the driver and this is going to be the driven. Okay. For the A and B, so omega A by omega B, and then this is going to become driver and this is going to become driven. Okay. If you consider only B and C, so that is omega B by omega C. Now this is with respect to the simple gear train. Then we have another thing called as the compound gear trains. Okay. In case of compound gear train, so we have the two gears which are present on the same shaft. Okay. That is, if you observe, B and C is present on the same shaft. A drives B. Okay. A drives B, and in turn the C is going to be on the same shaft of B. So C rotates and C is going to be meshed with D. Okay, so this is how the combination is going to be. You can understand A to B, B and C is on the same shaft, then C drives the D. Okay, now in this case of the angular velocities, so this is called as your driver and this is your driven. Okay, so angular velocity of driver by angular velocity of driven. Then you will be considering these cases. Okay, omega A by omega B. Okay, multiply by omega B by omega C, angular velocities, and then omega C by omega D. Okay, now if you just go with that, okay, you will be having what is called as omega A by omega B and omega C by omega D, because in this case both the angular velocities are going to be constant. Okay, at the intermediate case. Okay, now these are all the basic things that we have done in the previous case. Okay, as per the syllabus, this is only what is there for us to understand. Okay, right. Then we have what are called as the gears. Okay, right. In the gear, so first is the rack and pinion. Okay, so the previous section what you have discussed is from rotary to rotary. Now here we have rotational to translation motion. That is the rack and pinion is going to be there. Okay, so linear velocity if I want, so I'm going to make use of the rack and the pinion. Okay, so rotational to translation motion. Okay, right. Now then we have what are called as the belt and chain drives, which are going to be present. Now in case of a belt and chain drives, okay, now you know that the movement is going to occur. Okay, the movement of the gear, okay, over a pulley, okay, is what is called as your belt drive, which is used for the larger center distance. Okay, for the larger center distance, I'm going to make use of what is called as the belt drive. Now in this case we have the tensions. Okay, so because of the differences in the tension on the tight side and the slack side, okay, the movement of the belt is going to occur. Okay, so that is what is the basic understanding. The pair of rolling cylinder with the motion of one cylinder being transferred to the other by a belt, okay, through the pulleys. Okay, right. Now as we know, the friction is required here. Okay, in some of the cases we don't want the friction to occur, but here because of the friction only, there will be a movement of the or there will be a movement of the belt across your pulley is going to occur. Okay, the torque obtained is basically called as the differences in tension that occur in the belt during the operation between the tight side and that of the slack side. It is T1 minus T2. That is what is called as your the torque. Okay, which is going to be present. Okay, that is torque on A, T1 minus T2 into the radius of pulley A, and if pulley B is going to be a driver, then torque on pulley B, okay, is going to be T1 minus T2 into the radius of the pulley B. Okay, then power, what is that you are going to consider, is going to be T1 minus T2 into B. Then we have different types of the belts which are going to be present. That is open belt drive and also the crossed belt drive. Okay, now here we are not worrying about any derivation of open belt drive or the cross belt drive. Okay, we are only understanding what are the various mechanical actuation systems are going to be present, or mechanical actuators which are going to be present. Okay, then when it comes to the types of the belts, okay, we have various different types of the belts which are going to be present. Okay, which are called as your flat belt. Okay, flat belt, round, okay, V belt, timing belts. Okay, and then the last one is going to be what is called as your the bearings. Okay, right. Now in case of a bearing, basically as I understood, which is generally used for the support. Okay, mainly the bearings are going to be used in order to avoid the relative motion. Okay, and in order to have a contact. Now basically this the bearings are going to be used to guide with minimum friction and maximum accuracy the movement of one part relative to another. Okay, right. Then we have different types of the bearings which are going to be present. Okay, so different types of the bearings which are going to be present. Okay, that is journal bearings, ball bearing, and the roller bearings. Okay, right. Now I think once again. Okay, right. Okay, now in case of a journal bearing, basically, okay, so we call it as what is called as a radial radial journal bearing. Okay, radial journal bearing, wherein the amount of the load which is going to be considered is going to be what is called as perpendicular to the axis of rotation of the shaft. Okay, so perpendicular to the axis of rotation of the shaft, the load is going to be transferred. So that is the reason why we call it as the plain journal bearing. Okay, right. And along with that, we have what are called as the ball bearing and the roller bearings. Okay, right. So in case of the ball bearing, okay, as you know, we will be having outer race and the inner race. In between the outer race and the inner race, okay. So through the interference fit mechanism, we have inserted the ball. The ball is going to rotate within a area within the place. That place is what we call as the cage. Okay, the ball is going to be rotated within the cage. Okay. Now here, depending upon the type of the load that you are going to transfer, okay, so the ball bearings are going to have different classifications which are going to be there. Okay, and those classifications are going to be like this. So we have what are called as the deep groove ball bearing, okay, and the angular contact ball bearing, and filling slot ball bearings. Okay, right. Now I just have to leave the class now because of a meeting scheduled at 10:10. Okay, I think with some more examples, okay, I'll just take this session. Okay, right. I just request you, okay, okay, please type your USN number quickly. Okay, so 10:10 there is a meeting for me to attend.